Welcome to our last video of the unit where we're going to talk about composite units. This one may take a little bit longer, so if you need to pause the video and go get a snack or something, feel free to do so. All right, for those of you who are still with me or have just come back, so composite units it's something that we create in accounting. In the previous videos, we have assumed that our product, we've just done the calculations for a single product, right? Product A or product B. And we just had the one product. It was easy. Sales minus variable cost equals contribution margin, yada, yada. Okay. But most businesses sell more than one product. In fact, in our sample business, we sell 3 products. We sell handcrafted coffee, the kind that have, get me a half decaf, almond milk, triple shot, 3 pumps with whip, something. Okay. Then we have just regular coffee, just brewed coffee, and then we sell scones. And so if we wanted to calculate our break even, it's going to be hard when we have 3 different products with 3 different sales prices and 3 different variable costs. So what we do is we put them into a composite unit. And our composite unit has 10 handcrafted coffees, 8 regular coffees, and 3 scones. Now, how did we come up with that? We have to know our product mix. And the product mix is not something we set. This is determined by our customers and their buying habits. And we cannot change it unless we do something to change the buying habits of our customers, like maybe change our pricing or advertise something more. But for now, we're going to assume that we don't do that. Okay, so we know our product mix. And if we know that, then we can create a composite unit that is made up of how our customers normally buy. So in this case, for every 10 handcrafted coffees we sell, we also sell 8 regular coffees and 3 scones. That's just the habits of our customers, right? And that's not everything we're selling in one day, right? Maybe we're selling 100 handcrafted coffees and 80 regular coffees and 30 scones, or maybe it's even more than that, but it's always going to be in that proportion because that's just over time how our customers buy, okay? So we're going to put the 8 handcrafted coffees, the 10 handcrafted coffees, the 8 regular coffees, and the 3 scones into one composite unit. We're going to figure out the selling price, variable cost, and contribution margin for that composite unit. And then we can use our composite unit to figure out our break even. Okay, let's do it. All right, so our handcrafted coffee sells for $4. Our regular coffee sells for $2. You can tell these prices are very out of date, and a scone sells for $3. This is like a bargain coffee shop. Okay, so in our composite unit, it's going to be our selling price for handcrafted coffee times the number of handcrafted coffees in our composite unit, in this case 10, plus selling price for regular coffee times the number of coffees in our composite unit, which is 8, plus the number, the selling price for a scone times the number of scones in our composite unit, which is 3. And so when we add that up, the selling price for one composite unit is going to be $65. So if I went and put out on the board for the customers, like, hey, you can buy a composite unit, and someone said, yeah, I'd like to buy one composite unit, they would be getting 10 handcrafted coffees, 8 regular coffees, 3 scones, and they would pay me $65 for it. Okay, so now we can do the same thing to calculate our variable cost for the composite unit. So first we get the variable cost for each of our individual products. And then we do the calculation. So our variable cost for our composite unit is going to be $1 variable cost for handcrafted coffee times the 10 handcrafted coffees in our product mix, plus the variable cost for a regular coffee times the number of regular coffees in our composite unit, plus the variable cost for a scone times the number of scones in our composite unit. And when we add all of those up, the variable cost of one composite unit is $20. All right, so now we know our selling price for one composite unit. and we know our variable cost for one composite unit. So we can calculate our contribution margin per composite unit. So our sales price is 65. Our variable costs are 20. So sales minus variable costs gives us our contribution margin per unit, which is $45. Now I'm going to use that to calculate my break even. So my fixed costs are $90,000. And of course, we remember that if I want to calculate my break even in units, in this case in composite units, it's going to be my fixed cost divided by my contribution margin per unit. So my fixed costs are $90,000 divided by the $45 contribution margin for one composite unit. And, oh my God, I've got some serious zeros going on there, don't I? Our break-even composite unit is 2,000. So I have to sell 2,000 composite units to break even. All right, so now that's going to help me set some sales targets. So I just go out to my team and I say, hey guys, you guys need to all sell 2,000 composite units. That's your goal. And they're going to look at me and say, what's a composite unit? Okay, so now I have to convert my composite unit back, my break-even composite in number of composite units back into individual units. Okay, so break-even, I can do units or I can do dollars. So my selling price per unit is $4 for handcrafted coffee, $2 for regular coffee, $3 for scones. In order to break even, I have to sell 2,000 composite units. Okay. So the number of units I have to sell 2,000 composite units. And handcrafted coffee, there's 10 of those in a composite unit. So I have to multiply 2,000 by 10. So to break even, I'm going to need to sell 20,000 handcrafted coffees. I multiply my break even in composite units times the number of regular coffees in one composite unit, 8. And that means I have to sell 16,000 regular coffees to break even. I'm going to multiply my break-even composite units, which is 2,000, times the number of scones in one composite unit, which is 3, and I have to sell 6,000 scones to break even. So now when I go to do my sales targets, instead of saying, hey team, you got to sell 2,000 composite units and having them think that I'm smoking something out back, I can say, hey, our goal for this month is to sell 20,000 handcrafted coffees, 16,000 regular coffees, and 6,000 scones. And that's going to make a lot more sense. If I want to calculate my break-even dollars, I can do it one of two ways. I can either multiply my break-even units by my sales price per unit. So for handcrafted coffee, that'd be $80,000. Or I can multiply my break-even units times the number of regular coffees in one composite unit times the sales price. That didn't turn out well, did it? So it would be break-even composite units times the number of coffees that are in regular coffees that are in a composite unit times the sales price per coffee. 32,000, that looks a lot better. All right. This way is obviously easier, so I'm just going to multiply my break-even units for scones times the sales price for scones. And that's going to be 18,000. So in order to break even, I'm going to need to make $130,000 in sales. All right, who wants to check their work? Of course, we always like to check our work. So we can come down here and we can check our work. So our break-even units here is 2,000. Oh no, this isn't composite unit. This is just break-even units. So our break-even units for handcrafted coffee was 20,000. Our break-even units for regular coffee was 16,000, and our break-even units for scones was 6,000. And then I'm going to multiply it by our contribution margin per unit, because contribution margin, remember, it covers fixed costs first and then profit. So if we're at break-even, all of my contribution margin that I've made off my break-even units should add up to my fixed costs. So my my contribution margin for one handcrafted coffee is sales minus variable costs of 3. For regular coffee, it's sales price of $2 minus variable cost of 50 cents. So it's going to be $1.50. There we go. And our for scones, it's going to be our sales price of 3 minus our variable cost of 2, our contribution margin of 1. And I just multiply my break-even number of units times the contribution margin per unit. For handcrafted coffee, I get 60,000. For regular coffee, I get 24,000. And for scones, I get 6,000. And if I add up the contribution margin, if I sell the break-even number of units for each of my 3 products, I get 90,000, which is my right here, fixed costs. So I know I've done it correctly. All right, so that's going to wrap us up. Your homework is going to look very similar to this worksheet. So again, print out the worksheet, take some good notes on it. You should be able to fly through the homework. If you have any questions, come to my office hours, send me a Canvas mail, an email, post something on the Q&A forum. However you can, get a hold of me. Form study groups with other people, right? Maybe ask your peers, but get the help you need, and see you next time.